Hey everyone, what is going on? It is Brian. We are back. And for today's video, we had some samples sent to us by our friend Dan. And last week on the Intro Proof Live that we did over on the Drew P. Whiskey channel, we do those on Thursday nights, we had brought up this blind of the E.H. Taylor Barrel Proof 2021 release versus Stagg Jr. Batch 15. Now, Drew and I both added a couple of things to this blind, but we also had different impressions of them when we did this on the live. And I wanted to go ahead and remove some of the variables, at least that I did in my blind, bringing in a Stagg pick from a local store. And I wanted to just put these two together. So this is the 127.3 proof E.H. Taylor Barrel Proof, again from 2021, and the 131.1 proof Stagg Jr. Batch 15. If you watch the Intro Proof live streams, you'll know that I'm not an enormous Stagg Jr. fan. I like George T. Stagg, but I haven't really kept up with the batches of Stagg Jr. in quite some time. I know that there have been some newer batches lately that people have been really big fans of. I've tried a couple of pours at bars and I thought they were really good, but for some reason Stagg Jr. is still one of those bottles that locally in Louisville I don't come into, and I don't find it, and I honestly don't really seek it out either. But I want to get into these two because I did have a try, I believe, of both these at separate times at the bar. One of them I'm pretty sure I really enjoyed, and the other one I didn't. And so I figured a better way to try these would be head-to-head, crown a victor, if you will. So let's go ahead and start with the first sample. You all will obviously know as I'm tasting what these samples are. I will not until we reveal them at the end. Let's go ahead and nose through these two samples. The first sample, it has this kind of cinnamon frosting note, like I've pulled up in Russell's Reserves before, like I've pulled up in Buffalo Trace products before. You get that classic kind of honey tone that I feel like I notice in a lot of Buffalo Trace products as well. It's got some nice fruity sweetness too. It's not quite tropical. It's mainly hitting on that cherry note that's pretty prominent in a lot of Stagg Juniors. Doesn't really burn. It's pretty balanced with that fruit and that honey note. The cinnamon kind of trails. A little bit of brown sugar, a little bit of oak. But that pretty much sums it up. Let's go ahead and go to the next glass. This one's already a little bit more syrupy, already a little bit richer. It's got a lot of similar flavor pockets, honestly. It's got this confectioner sugar note that I feel like I've noticed lately in some of the American whiskeys that I've reviewed. It's got a good bit of brown sugar, a good dollop of caramel in there. Not really overly fruity. I feel like maybe it has a little bit of fruit in there, but really it's just kind of more of a saturated caramel, brown sugar, sweet tone profile. Also doesn't seem like it has a ton of noticeable oak. Maybe a little bit in there. Just nice and sweet. Let's go ahead and jump into the palate, going back to sample one. And that is a bruiser on the palate. It introduces some juicy fruit gum-like sweetness among that cinnamon, baking spice, just filling the palate and prickling all around the sides of the mouth. It lingers chewy, slightly minty, toned, fruity, caramel sweetness to the body. And overall, chewy, pleasing, pretty rounded. Let's go ahead and quickly go to the second sample. Like the nose suggested, it is chewier. It's more coating. It's richer. It's more of the brown sugar and caramels. Now, I will say, it does lean pretty sweet. I would say, again, like when I've talked about the Penelope American whiskey, the Bull Run American whiskeys, these are things that I've mentioned having this kind of birthday cake-like sweetness. And this is not quite there, but man, is it close, both on the nose and on the palate. It tingles, but it doesn't hit as many spots. You notice this strawberry, this orange citrus, toffee, chocolate, oak, brown sugar. And I feel like it gives me a lot of the progression of flavors like the George T. Stagg would, but it's not nearly as old. Let's go ahead and go back to the first sample again. Man, there's some nice like candy pecan notes popping on the nose now. But still, what I wrestle with on the palate is this slightly thinner mintiness, this slightly thinner baking spice thing about it that just leaves me wishing for something a little bit more, compared to sample B that just comes off more syrupy, more rich, more full, more coating. Based on past experiences, if I were to guess, well, let me go ahead and say it. I would put Glass 2 as my winner in this one because of its richness, because of its fullness, because it has a little bit more expansive flavor to it. Now, while this first glass does have an increasingly growing, enjoyable nose, I feel like it misses a little bit on the palate. I feel like you are getting just some spice and some heat, and it's thin, it's kind of a narrow profile, and I just wish there was a little bit something else that I'm just not getting out of it. With comparison again to sample B, where you get all of that richness, all that flavor, all of that saturation. If I had to guess based on my prior tastings, I would assume that what is in this first glass is the E.H. Taylor Barrel Proof from last year. My first time trying it, I think I even commented on my Instagram that I thought it was no better than a Russell's Reserve pick, and that those spice notes kind of carry along with that. While the second one here definitely gives me some nice Stagg-like profiles to it. Let's go ahead and reveal this one here does happen to be the E.H. Taylor Barrel Proof in the first glass, which means that the Stagg Junior batch 15 is in the second. Now, again, you know that Stagg Junior is not necessarily a profile that I've been able to get all that often, and it's one that I've been a little bit more interested in, so I'm excited to see, especially now neither of these are very easy to come by products. If you had to go into the secondary market, it is nice to know that the one that fetches a little bit less money is the one that wins out in profile for me here tonight. Guys, I hope this was informational to you all. Have you put Stagg Junior head-to-head with E.H. Taylor Barrel Proof? Have you tried either of those two products? Leave me a message down below. Let me know if you're in camp Stagg. I should say Stagg without the Junior now, right? So if you're in camp Stagg Junior, or if you're in camp E.H. Taylor Barrel Proof. Whether you've side-by-side or not, let me know what your thoughts have been on these products down in the comments below. I'd also be really curious to hear what your thoughts are on other batches of Stagg Junior. I'd love to try some of the other ones. Let me know what some of your favorite batches of Stagg Junior have been, or even some of your favorite batches of the E.H. Taylor Barrel Proof. Again, in the comments down below. What do you guys think of this kind of head-to-head format? Again, I don't talk about Buffalo Trace products all that much, or put products like this head-to-head. I know we're a little bit out of date from when it first released either of these two, so it might exactly not be relevant. But if you like this kind of content, let me know. I'll try and put some more head-to-heads back to back, and we can see which one reigns supreme. Thanks so much for tuning in, everybody. If you all want more content, jump into the Entry Proof Live. I'm live with Drew P. Whiskey on his channel Thursday nights doing blind flights, maybe have a guest on, talking about upcoming barrel picks. We have a lot of fun over there, and we take kind of a deep dive every single week, as long as we're able to. If you all want more access to barrel picks or behind the scenes footage, consider becoming a Patreon member. Patreon.com/entryproofpodcast. Thanks again, everybody. Until next time, we'll see you all later.